Greetings from the Catholic parish of Bundaberg, trusting you are safe and in good spirits. Today we continue getting to know the people of our parish just that little bit better. A bit of fun and a bit of information. And today we have Margaret and Roy Preece, who the people of St. James will know really, really well. Now today it's a real privilege because I would suggest there'll be a number of us who are going to learn a lot about some of even our Australian history and the way the faith story has been told over those years. And when we talk about faith, we've got a beautiful little reading. So Roy, you love the story of Saul and his conversion on the road to Damascus. So you'd like to read that one for us now, please.
Meanwhile, Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogue at Damascus, so that if he found any who belonged to the way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. Now as he was going along and approaching Damascus, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" He asked, "Who are you, Lord?" The reply came, "I am Jesus, who you are persecuting. But get up and enter the city, and you will be told what you are to do." The men who were travelling with him stood speechless, because they heard the voice but saw no one. Saul got up from the ground, and though his eyes were open, he could see nothing. So they led him to the hand and brought him into Damascus. For 3 days he was without sight and neither ate nor drank.
Very powerful reading, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
And Saul is a major player in our faith story.
Yes.
Why have you chosen that one, Roy?
I don't know. It's always struck me that the power of Jesus, the power of our Lord, that he knocked Saul to the ground, and how he was able to convert Saul so that he was went out preaching the words of Jesus.
Yeah, it had such a profound effect on him, wasn't it?
It did have a profound effect on him, yes.
Yeah, Extraordinary story. Who are you persecuting? You're persecuting Jesus. So, yeah, it's a real message there, isn't there?
There's a very strong message, a powerful message.
Yeah, and Margaret, you love St. Peter. And I just think it's amazing you got Peter and Paul together. That's as we have a special Saints' Day, Peter and Paul together. So, two totally different types of characters
Yes.
in our church are the same. So, why St. Peter?
Well, St. Peter was uneducated. He was a fisherman, and he got up and left his father. His brother went with him too, but he didn't have. That's why I reckon he followed Jesus, so he had to have the Spirit. I couldn't see why he would just go without something inside him. Then he gradually got not control, but when Jesus drew the disciples, he was the main part of them, because everywhere, like the Transfiguration, but there was heaps more, it was always Peter, James and John. And yeah, it's really amazing, Peter. But then I was amazed that he denied the Lord at the crucifixion. He was denied him 3 times. But then he was willing to give his life for it when the soldiers arrested him. He cut off the fellow's ear. But Jesus put that back on. I wonder why he did that. And then 3 times. So that's got to be something. I reckon he had the Spirit right in him.
I think that's so true. Someone who knew about forgiveness, so could teach about forgiveness.
Yeah,
Yeah. Great leader.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he's my favourite.
Okay, thank you. Roy and Margaret, you have an extraordinary history behind you. That, Roy, you date back all the way to 1830 with your great-great-grandfather. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he came out to Australia. Could you like to tell us from there? And I can assure you, this is a fascinating story with Roy and Margaret, as they tell us a lot of Australian history, and I would even suggest a little bit of our church history as well.
Well, my great-great-grandfather, he was christened Edward Thomas, and he was a convict, and he was better known as called Tom. And anyway, he was better. He was transported to Australia for stealing a loaf of bread and a leg of ham, and he was out in Australia. He was sent up to Patterson, New South Wales, and a little place called Martin's Creek where he served his time, and then he was given a pardon. He was pardoned, and then he finished up marrying a local girl there, had quite a family. His oldest son, John, who was my great-grandfather, he then moved across to Clarencetown, in the seventh oldest town in New South Wales, and it was a hub for the main hub where they unloaded all the supplies off the boat that came up the Williams River on the windjammers, and then the boats loaded up with red cedar timber, which was growing profusely along the river banks then, and that timber was taken back to England, where they made terrific furniture out of the beautiful cedar timbers.
And your father?
Well, my father, who was Herbert John Preece, he was his trade was a teamster, where he drove horses and bullock teams, building the roads and things along, and for the railway that eventually came through, sort of thing. And he married my mother when he was 21 years of age. My mother was 16, and they had 9 children, 7 boys and 2 girls. And my mother was a convert, and we only had mass once a fortnight in our parish, the Dungog parish.
So whereabouts are you in the family?
I'm about the sixth.
The sixth?
Sixth in the family, yes. Yeah, and there was two boys and a girl came after me, and the girl was the youngest. There's only 3 of us surviving at the moment. My youngest sister and a younger brother and myself only surviving.
You went to school where?
I went to school, public school in Clarencetown, and where there was about 60, usually around about the 60 pupils, and only 2 teachers, and 2 classrooms. I went to school until I was 15 years of age. There was no such thing as high school then. We went up to 8th class. Then I worked for a couple of years in the bush with my father and brothers, cutting timber and snigging logs and that sort of thing, snigged out by the bullocks and loaded onto trucks to bring into the sawmills. And Then I did that for a couple of years and then finished up going to Newcastle to work with an electrician for a couple of years. I finished up coming back home to work in the bakery. The baker wanted to apprentice me, so I learnt the baking trade for 8 years, sort of thing. And during that time, my best friend, the same age as me, John Bennett, he was a young policeman in Sydney, and he was the one that talked me into going to Sydney for a weekend. Said he was going to arrange a date and for me. And anyway, his girlfriend was nursing at the Prince Henry Hospital with another girl nursing there. Anyway, I finished up that weekend. I met Margaret Conlon, and we became very good friends. We became engaged and got married. We got married in the Griffith Church, Catholic Church, in 1955. After that, we came back to Clarencetown, and I worked another so many years.
Roy, can we just leave it there? You found your beautiful young bride. Okay, let's hear her story, and then we're going to match them together. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so thank you. There's a lot of history in there, isn't there? And there's a lot of history you haven't told us. So if you'd like to know a little bit more, here he is. He goes to St. James Church at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. So, Margaret.
You just want me to start off with my great-grandfather?
Well, you can start where you like, Margaret.
Well, Dad's grandfather came out from Ireland. His name was Eugene Conlon. He was the first man to build, he built the first bridge in Tasmania, and that's why they sent him out. So then they moved up to Taradale in Victoria, and that's where Dad and his brothers were living. Then when the Great Depression, after the First World War, they were given pieces of land in New South Wales, and Dad and his brother Jim, they were given a block each. So they settled there. Then he met my mother. She was called Minnie Conlon, Minnie Zubar, and they got married. And you know what happened? Mum's family didn't really want her to become a Catholic. Dad's family said, you're not good enough. So then 8 children came along, and we all had chips on our shoulder because we had all the others around and we were someone, But anyway, we started farming on this spot. Gradually it expanded. Other people sold out. And I went to school in a little old school called Woolthorpe. And my sister, after Mr. Bill Moore died, my sister took over, but she was not a teacher. And she used to try and make me learn John Powers, Father John Powers. And I said, I don't understand it. What age would I be? About 10. I said, it isn't for me. And she said, well, you either learn it off by heart or I'll cane you. And I said, that isn't fair because you're not caning the other children. So anyway, she went off at 21, thank goodness, and joined these Little Sisters of the Poor. So that was good. Because meanwhile, I wouldn't do what she said, of course, and running around the house, I went into the door jamb and split my head wide open, and that's where all my brains went. And After that, they decided, Mum and Dad, that I should go away to boarding school. But I hadn't learnt anything in 6th class, so it was very hard going. And I flunked the intermediate. Because when we went to get the children, adopt the children, they said, oh, she's no good, she hasn't got a brain. I didn't tell them I had my head split open. But anyway, then my other sister, Mary, she joined. She went to boarding school too. And she had a fight with the head nun, Sister Michael. She had dark red hair. We were all a bit scared of her. But she joined Our Lady of the Sacred Heart Sisters. She's still alive at 91 in St. Joseph's Home, and she is so blind she can't read. So she's got her purgatory. And I said to her, offer it up. Look how many souls you're going to get out of purgatory. You just offer it up. And I don't think she was very happy with me. But I ring her every week. And me, as Roy told you, we met up and we got married, adopted 4 children, and we're all happy.
Sounds really good. Now, married in Griffith 65 years ago.
Yeah.
What's the secret of the success?
Well,
You work together.
yeah, it's got to be together.
You work together all the time. You just
And when you get cranky, go outside,
that's right. Yeah.
take off and talk to the birds. They ask me now why I'm quite content. No one comes very much. I'm quite content to go out in the garden.
Yeah.
My plants talk to me. They can say, I don't like it here, so I move it. The birds talk to me.
Yeah, a bit of St. Francis in you, isn't there? And you're telling me a little bit about how nature affects you greatly, and you had some visitors and you took them outside to show them
Yeah,
nature.
the Jehovah Witness.
Yeah.
I was going on about this Bible, but, I said, look, perfect love. That's all you need. So I showed them the pigeons on the lawn.
Yeah, took them outside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
great.
I said, just look at the flowers, When you see that, you know there's a superior being.
Yeah.
And when it rains, it's the greens aren't sending the rain, that's for sure.
Okay. Yes, so 65 years ago in Griffith, you are now in Bundaberg. Can you tell me the story of how you come from Griffith to Bundaberg?
Well, after 20 years working in the shop 7 days a week and rearing 4 children from babies, we decided to sell out in 1981. And I said to Margaret, well, where do you want to go? And she said, I want to go to a warmer climate. And I said, well, righto, Queensland, here we come.
Yeah.
And anyway, in 1982, we bought a small property out at Bullyard, this side of Gingin, and we stayed there till 1989. We had 10 acres of pineapples and mango trees and that sort of thing. So
I grew the mango
and
tree.
we both had jobs. I was working on the council for quite a few years, working out on other farms. Margaret had a job in the Gingin Hospital, cleaning sort of thing. So we just kept working, and anyway, in 1989 we decided that we'd had enough sort of thing, and we were too old to keep working. So we decided to move into Bundaberg, and we bought our house over in East Bundaberg, and we've been there ever since, sort of thing. 30 years now.
I love it.
You love it. And the St. James community is like a country flavour, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite
is,
something.
yeah. All the people at St. James are very, very friendly and welcomed everybody with open arms, sort of thing. So it's a beautiful community.
You've got to watch out for Frank and Kathy because you'll get a job if you're not careful.
Well, Frank's he's a live wire. He never stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some real characters there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the birds of the feather for you guys. I really think it's a really great community, isn't it? Now, both of you are very faith-filled people. And when I was listening to your story, some of your story earlier, there was a bit of a common denominator amongst it. So prayer life was huge amongst you. Would you like to explain how that worked for you two?
Well, for me, we always had to go to church, to mass every fortnight, every Sunday when the mass was on. But then my oldest brother, as I said, he got very sick. He was married with 3 children, and anyway, he had dropsy and Bright's disease. He was in hospital for 9 months, and his wife was living with us at the time. And anyway, we started saying the rosary every night, and for the whole of that 9 months, before my brother passed away, we never missed saying the rosary at home every night, and it was all the family.
And Margaret,
Yeah.
rosary is part of your story.
Yes, main part. We always said the rosary. Sometimes it was difficult to get the mass when we were young, simply because the old ute wouldn't start. I don't know how far Barellan is, how many miles?
20 miles.
20 miles. So my father said, come on, the sulky's there, and he put John out the front to hold a light, pitch dark.
Yeah.
And we nearly got killed because we didn't see the car coming towards us. We were in the dark. But we made it.
Yeah.
And that was part of our growing up. And then, of course, we had Kath and Mary, both nuns, and praying madly for us.
Yeah.
And then little mother now, they've opened her coffin.
Okay.
And people are taking bouquets of flowers. Did you know that she said before she died, she was a cripple? She just said, on a certain date, I will be taken out of the Ranwick graveside, where I will be resting, and I will be put into the chapel. Of course, they had to get an undertaker, to open the coffin when they got it up. He nearly died, because when he lifted the lid, she was perfect.
Okay.
The only thing different was the white clothes she had on had discoloured.
Okay.
And I can't understand it. I know that God's in charge of all our lives, but why have they got her hidden away?
You think she should be out? Yeah.
And letting people come, and because Our Lady appeared to her. This was in her memoirs. Gosh, they're heavy going.
Her name was Eileen O'Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good Irish name.
yeah. But
So there's a beautiful faith story there with both of you, and our faith takes us just beyond science, doesn't it? It takes beyond technology,
yeah.
beyond this rationalism that we are
Yeah.
working with at the moment.
Yeah.
And it just comes through you so beautifully. So if you've got a message for the people today, if you were going to give some instructions to the young ones or anyone, what would it be about your faith story?
Always realise that there's a God there, and you should have God in your life.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can say.
And so when we face our troubles, like we have the trouble of the coronavirus at the present time,
Yeah.
the faith story just takes you through it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does.
It does.
It helps. It really helps.
Yeah.
Well, I pray a lot for Scott Morrison.
Yeah.
I think that he has done a marvellous job. I don't want anyone complaining.
Yeah.
No one. I said, just grow up.
In fact, I think our leaders in Australia have done a great job
Done a marvellous
right across the
job.
board. A few squabbles now, sort of here and there,
Yeah.
but I agree with you. I think we've been very, very fortunate. So thank you, Roy and Margaret, for being with us today. It's certainly a real privilege and to hear just some of your story, and I'm sure you've got many stories because you are both storytellers. And just when you're off camera, Margaret was just saying she's got so many upstairs who are praying, brothers and sisters praying. A great faith story, with the saints. It's just so beautiful. So, Roy, you're going to read us a little prayer.
Compassionate and loving Father, in the face of confusion and concern, impart to us the calm of your presence. In you, allow us to find hope and healing. Be with those who serve the sick and give them your caring hands. Be with those who lead and give them your spirit of wisdom. Be with those who have fallen ill and give them your comforting heart. Wrap your arms around our world and hold us in your love. Allow us at this time of trial to then serve us as instruments of that love to all we meet. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. So thank you. If you want to know a little bit more about Australian history and Australian faith, please, Roy and Margaret are a real living resource for that one. So thank you for being with us today. Join us again next week for another episode of Church Chat. Keep in touch, stay well, and be gentle with each other. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.